that's going to take, you know, it's a step by step. Yes, we can all make intentions, but to totally trust, one, that intention will manifest, well, that in itself can be, because we've got so much doubts and whatever.
Well,
and then to allow it, even, well, the allowance means no trying to manipulate it, no trying to figure it out, be unattached.
Detachment.
That's a hard one too, because obviously you wouldn't make an intent for something unless it was something you really wanted. So obviously the fact that you really want it means it's something you have some sort of attachment to. But the more attachment we have to something, almost acts like a repellent, and pushes it away. So there's these fine balances of, you know, because I've always thought, well, if I make an intent for something, it's obviously something I want. I want that something in my life. So obviously there's a degree of attachment because I want it, you know. And in order to go for something, you need to have the motivation to go for it. But then you go, but be unattached as well. It's like, that's a bit like a contradiction somewhere. Be motivated but unattached, you know. And there is a kind of like way that I kind of brought that one kind of together.
It's like you're saying, not to kind of, you know, we'll be more discerning about when to take action, and we, by taking action, and thinking, well, it's not happened yet, I need to do something, we're interfering with the flow.
Well, we can sometimes interfere with it by having too fixed an idea on how it's going to manifest. And very often some of the things that manifest in our lives come from an avenue we wouldn't even thought of. Whoop, came out from up there when you weren't expecting that. Where did that come from? So that's where the allowing can be very, very powerful. We're coming up to a break now, so we'll continue this conversation after the break. So join me in a moment. Welcome back to the show, and this week we've been talking about healing and empowerment and associated other healing forms, and I'm joined by two delightful ladies, Ahlmeirah and Grace Ann. And just before the break we were talking about this, the power of intent, and I was talking about the trust and allowance aspect, which kind of I had to learn the hard way. But it created in me a kind of almost like a contradiction, because in the allowance is the being unattached to the thing you're intending, which seemed at first to me like a contradiction, because if you're going for something, you need to be enthusiastic about it, and otherwise you wouldn't be going for it. So to be unattached seems like, well, there's a contradiction there, until I realized that, because at one time in my life I always used to be, I always lived in the future, the goal. I was always eyes set on the goal. And I couldn't wait to get to the goal. And when I got there, I was generally disappointed, but that's all right. I had to back up, another goal. And I never enjoyed the journey.
At the moment.
I was never in the now. And through processes that were very uncomfortable, I kind of realized that it's not the goal. You have the goal, but it's the journey to that destination that very often is the most fulfilling part of the whole thing. Therefore, being unattached to the outcome, but being really enthusiastic and motivated in each moment of now of the journey, that's where, because very often that's where the greatest fulfillment comes from. I don't know, you wanted to talk about something.
Well, it kind of fits in very well with what you're saying, is that the idea of, or the concept of really being in the moment, enjoying the moment, is all related to gratitude. You know, when you can really enjoy every moment and be grateful for every moment. And when you are in the energy of gratitude, the heart really opens. And often in the process of manifestation, what prevents the universe from giving to us what we are intending is that there is a part of us who is closed to receiving.
Yes.
From, you know, belief systems and feelings of unworthiness and so on. But the magic of gratitude is whenever you're in a space of gratitude, or whenever you're expressing gratitude, your heart opens, and that bypasses all those programs and energies that are preventing the magic coming.
Right.
And then everything just comes, everything just keeps flowing. And in a way, if we can be in gratitude all the time, if everything is so amazing, you know, in our life, you know, just sitting here right now, and it's warm, and we've got this lovely connection between each other, and you know, we've got our bellies full, and
sure. So it's a bit like focusing and being grateful for the things that we have got, as opposed to focusing and being miserable about things we haven't got.
Exactly, which is actually what most people are focused on all the time.
Sure. And again, but some of that is due to conditioning of our society, that it breeds that sort of mentality and thinking, isn't it?
I mean, I remember reading this incredible book about manifestation and creating your life, and it was one of the things the lady said was, well, just think for 5 minutes if you were a child in the third world, and think how they would love to have your life now. And that made me realize, my God, you know, I have such an amazing life. I have all this abundance around me. I'm in a safe country. You know, there's free will. I can say what I want here without being shot.
Yeah, well,
all these things that we sort of take for granted, which are amazing things. Yeah.
I think there's something about as well with gratitude is also seeing in kind of the most dire circumstances the good stuff in that. Like we were saying earlier, you know, it can come in very strange packaging.
yes.
Yeah.
Again, that sometimes, and I'm sure you've experienced that. Okay, yeah, when you're going through this stuff, it's like it's horrible.
Well, yeah, it's not a walk in the park.
But when, you know, when you come out the other side of that, very often when we look back on our lives at those things, you know, you actually say, well, actually, if that hadn't have happened, then that wouldn't have happened. And this is very common when you talk to some people, and therefore you could then simply just choose a way of thinking that regardless of what manifests in your life, it's always a gift.
Yeah.
And which doesn't mean denying how you feel, because that it's important to express how you feel. You know, if a situation, otherwise you're going to be suppressing, which is not healthy. But what happens with a lot of people is that they express what they feel, and then there's the danger of indulgence.
Exactly.
Indulging in it, and then it becomes a spiraling downwards, and you get depressed and down, and it just keeps adding and adding on, because you're just dwelling on it, dwelling on it, dwelling on it.
I mean, this links in quite nicely with, because I'm wanting to also, in addition to the courses and workshops, I'm going to start running for it as empowerment for women or for anyone that has experienced abuse trauma, is running support groups, ongoing support groups for survivors. And unfortunately, the tendency seems to be to kind of stay in story. So it's about staying in the wounding, which isn't very empowering. You know, it can be a part of the process, the healing process, but as you're, you know, naming there, to stay in that, to stay in the drama, if you like.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one you mentioned that, because there's some people are addicted to drama.
Yes. We each have that element, but it is about going beyond that and thinking, okay, what have I learned from this experiences, and you know, how can I then evolve? How can I grow from these?
And the thing is, you know, if you look at any amazing or powerful healer, they will all have a story of some pain in their life, and it's through that pain that they somehow became an amazing healer.
Yeah.
And it's also through that pain that a desire to help others comes. Because when you're in pain, you and when you come out of it especially, you want to share that with other people.
Well, I very often find that, even though I've gone through a horrendous experience, once I've integrated, okay, expressed how I feel, but very careful, right, I've expressed what I feel now. If I go any further than this, I'm just indulging. So the first thing I'll do is go out to nature. I talk about this a lot on my show, the healing power of being in nature. I'll go and find my place in the woods or by a stream, wherever. Allow myself to immerse myself in that energy, because that to me is very empowering, but also nurturing to your sense of self and well-being. And then have that openness to, okay, where's the gift now? There's somewhere here is a gift. I might not see it at the moment, but instead of focusing my energy on the continual feelings
process.
of that, you're putting your energy in, well, some gift's going to show itself, which changes the whole energy, changes your whole outlook on it, doesn't it?
You're redirecting your energy into something more positive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you touched on the light body activation, which I know is a part of your work. Is that something that you do as well, or participated in? Or?
It's something that I've received, but yes, Ahlmeirah is the light body surgeon.
And just give us a brief, what does that entail? What are you actually doing there?
The light body activation work is basically consciousness work. It's to awaken people so they remember more of who they are.
Right, and you mentioned that earlier, yeah.
And it's a series of sessions which are about removing some energy structures and some vows and so on, which create the illusion of being separate from spirit, separate from divinity.
Yeah.
And then there are a series also of activations to help the remembering, if you like, of divinity and the embodying of divinity, so that people can have a massive shift to realizing that actually we're not humans having a spiritual experience, we're a spirit having a human experience.
Yes, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And this light body activation work, it's it's for people who are already doing some personal development work. Otherwise it doesn't have so much effect. But it has a massive awakening effect. And interestingly also, many people get healing as a side effect of it. Right. Because of course when there is more divinity that comes in the body, many things heal spontaneously. So I've had some people having remissions from very serious chronic illnesses just happening spontaneously, or something like smoking addiction, just like that, gone overnight as a side effect of the reconnection to spirit. But the gift, or I suppose the purpose of the light body work, is that once you reconnect to your divinity, then it's about, well, expressing that divinity, isn't it? Because we're all here for a purpose. And unfortunately, many people, they're not living to the fullness of their gifts. Yeah. Sure. And for many reasons, of course, we talked about unworthiness and so on, not feeling good enough. Of course, that has a large part to play with it. But once we really reconnect to our gifts, it's like, okay, I've got to do it now. I've got to express myself. I've got to share this with the world. And that's the whole point of it, really.
Yeah.
So how can people get hold of you? Do you have a
website? Myself and my partner Nicholas, we have a website. It's called Center for Conscious Ascension, and it's CENTER, the American spelling. Right. Because
is that .com or?
It's .net. .net. When we did the numerology on it, it worked much better with the.
So say that again.
Center for Conscious Ascension.net.
Okay. Yeah. And what about yourself, Grace Ann?
Yeah, I've got a small website, but it's in my name, Grace Ann Kynglay, and also through my Google mail address, which is amazinggraceann at googlemail.com.
Okay. What was the other one you mentioned?
Well, it's www.graceannkynglay, it's just my name.
.com?
.co.uk.
Oh, .co.uk.
Yeah.
Okay. So if any folk out there that want to assist you,
well, yeah, I would love to hear.
Helping you set up this centre, which is obviously very worthwhile, and I'm sure there's a lot of folk out there that could really desperately use the services that you're bringing.
Yeah.
Because as you say, if that's the percentage of people that you mentioned earlier, that's a big high proportion of folk, isn't it?
I mean, I think there are some services out there, but perhaps don't have that kind of spiritual foundation.
Sure.
And perhaps it could just be that individuals need to go forwards.
Yeah. Well, the time has beaten us, I'm afraid.
No.
As always, we could talk for much longer, but thank you both for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you very much,
welcome.
Nick. We enjoyed
Thank
being
you,
here.
Grace Ann. And If you'd like more information about my guests, you can go to lightworkersguidetothegalaxy.com.